Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm doing a recommendation video about romances that start from one night. So these are going to be some of my favorite one night stand recs. I think some of them, maybe it might be like a fling, but I'm pretty sure all of these start with a one night stand, which eventually leads to more. So let's go ahead and dive right into some of my favorite one night stand recs. Okay, before I dive into some of my favorite one night stand recs, please subscribe to my channel, like and comment on this video. I really appreciate it. But I want to start with one of my favorite one night stand recs, and that is Ruthless Stranger by Maggie Cole. This is book 1 in the Mafia Wars, I believe. Yes, Mafia Wars by Maggie Cole. I haven't finished this series, but this first one really sucked me in and I loved it, and it was such a unique premise, so I really enjoyed this one. This is between Maxim and Aspen, and Aspen actually has just gotten divorced from like a 20-year marriage, I believe. That's another thing I like, is these have some, like, they're not older, but like in their 30s kind of thing. I think Maxim might be in his 40s, so there's a little bit of an age gap, but they're like, you know, older, so you don't really feel that age gap. So she's in Vegas celebrating her divorce with her best girlfriends, and Maxim is there, and he happens to overhear a conversation with her and her friends where she's talking about like her fantasy of like a one night stand with a stranger where she's blindfolded, she knows nothing about him, and he overhears this, is like, I'm game, you know. So he approaches her friends and kind of tells them, hey, I'm willing to do that. I like it because the friends kind of get his information, or I can't remember how they did because it's been a while since I've read this, but they want to make sure their friend's going to be safe going off with this stranger. But they end up having this one night stand. She's blindfolded the whole time, so she never sees him. I think it's actually like a 2-night stand, I believe, because while they're in Vegas, he ends up going on to the next day too. But they have this amazing connection, but he's part of the mafia. He does try to do some more legitimate business, but he knows it couldn't really work. So, but they end up running into each other in Chicago where they both live, and they end up working on like some housing project. I can't remember what it was for, but he sees her immediately, is like, oh my God, it's her. She recognizes his voice, and they basically start dating, because once he sees her again, he's like, this is kind of like fate. I'm not passing up this opportunity with her again. So they start to date, and you know, there's typical stuff. You get kind of mafia stuff, her ex-husband issues, some dangerous situations, and I just really loved it because Maxim is like all in on his woman, and it was a really fun time. So I really loved that one, and I would highly recommend it. If you haven't started the series, it's book number 1, so it's a good one to start. The next one that I have is The Stopover by TL Swan. This is the first book in the Miles High Club series. A lot of people do love Takeover, but that's book number 2, and they kind of start off with a fling, not like a full like one night stand. But basically this is Jameson Miles, and he is the CEO of Miles Media. And he basically kind of has a run-in with Emily, and she gets bumped up. I think there was like some kind of fight or something. I can't fully remember, but she ends up getting bumped up on a flight to first class. She's on her way to go apply, like interview for a big job, and she ends up sitting next to Jameson, and they start to hit it off. They end up having to go for a stopover, and so they decide to basically have a one night stand. They don't change numbers or really anything like that. So that was it. So then a year later, she ends up getting the big job that she needs, and it is for Jameson's company. And he's kind of frustrated and irritated that this woman he had a one night stand with shows up at his company, and he's kind of like kind of a dick hero, but I always like those, so I didn't totally mind it. So that ends up being kind of like a workplace, a billionaire, you know, one night stand, sexy times. They kind of start out a little bit enemies to lovers, but not really. He's just pissy. So I really, really loved that one. I would highly recommend. The next one that I have is actually another Mafia one. So I read a lot of Mafia, so there might be always Mafia recs in my videos. But this is Condemned to Love by Siobhan Davis. And this is the first book in the Mazzoni Mafia. And this is between Bennett, Mazzoni, and Sierra. And this is kind of an interesting setup because Bennett didn't know that he was like the illegitimate son of this mafia don. So he knew her when they were like younger because he was dating her sister. She always had a crush on him, but obviously he was dating her sister. So it was like, you know, obviously not going to happen or nothing go anywhere. But he ends up like kind of disappearing out of the picture and they never really knew what happened. But what ended up happening was his dad was in the mafia. They ended up pulling him in because he'd be like the heir. And so now he's part of the mafia. Well, now it's years later. She's 21. I think she's celebrating her birthday in Vegas. So another Vegas one. And she and her friend kind of get themselves in a very sticky situation with some scary dudes. They're in this room with them and they are like wanting to almost sexually assault them. So he happens to be there and he recognizes her. So he kind of helps her by almost doing like a fake sexual assault, but they do have sex. So, and she's not hating it because she's always had a thing for him. So they end up having this crazy one night stand, but he's like, you know, there can't really be anything between us. And this is actually kind of like a secret baby, but I didn't mind the secret baby because of mafia reasons, because I think she even tracks him down when she ends up getting pregnant. And she sees him do something or whatever. I can't fully remember. But she was like, I don't want my child involved in that. So she doesn't tell him. But he ends up coming back to town and seeing this kid, you know. And he is pissed because this is his child. So it's kind of a secret baby. I know a lot of people don't like that. But I thought it was okay with the way they did it in this one. And I really, really liked this. They had insane chemistry. And it was kind of taboo, you know, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so now I have a historical romance. And I thought it'd be fun to throw one of those in here. And this is Devil in Disguise by Lisa Kleypas. This is one of my favorite Lisa Kleypas. It's so fun. And they're more adult too, where they're not super young or anything like that. We actually have a widow in this. Merritt is a widow and she's working for her husband's shipping company. She's helping run it and everything. And she meets Keir, who is this Scottish, I believe he's making like whiskey or something. And there's a big issue with his shipment. He comes in all angry and she is immediately able to like calm him down, talk him off his ledge. And she is interested. So she kind of like pursues him, wants to have a good night with him and everything. And I just love the whole widow going after what she wants. And so they have this insane connection and you know, they have a one night stand kind of situation, but something happens, like a bad thing happens where he gets hurt and kind of loses his memory a little bit. And she kind of steps up to help take care of him. And you know, this is just an amazing book. I really, really love this. And it has ties to one of my favorite characters in the Lisa Kleypas Wallflower series. So I love this. I believe this is Ravenel number 7, but I think it's like a Wallflower number 2. I can't remember which one. But I love this so much. It's a great one. And I have another TL Swan. This is Dr. Stanton. And this is kind of an iffy one too. Because like, some people really hate this. I think I was like, didn't really mind it much. It's very angsty and the guy can be a freaking jerk. I think TL Swan can kind of write those heroes sometimes. But this is the first book in the Dr. Stanton series, which is tied with like the other Stantons. I haven't read all of them, so I don't know. I read this first, so you can definitely go into this. This is between Cameron Stanton, and I forgot the heroine's name, so I'm so sorry about that. But basically, this is another Vegas one where they have a one night stand in Vegas. She was getting kind of harassed by a guy at, a club or whatever, and he comes in and pretends to be her boyfriend to get this guy away from her. And they end up he's like, well, let's just, do it for real here. And he kind of woos her, and she's like, no way. But she ends up having a one night stand with him in Vegas. And they actually did exchange information, but he, I think, lost his phone. It's really I don't know. It's flimsy, but it works for the story. We're here for it. And so he didn't have her information, so she never heard from him. She ends up interning at his hospital I don't know how many years later it is, but she ends up being intern at his hospital, and she is a single mom. So this is another secret baby. But obviously she wasn't, or a surprise baby, I guess, because she wasn't hiding it from him. She didn't know who he was or anything. So she ends up interning, and when he finds out that she had his baby, he is an asshole. So just be prepared to be frustrated. But I actually really liked it. I had a good time with this one. And then one that's fun and a fun hockey romance is Pucked by Helena Hunting. I'm sure you've probably read this by now, but if not, this is a great one-night stand. This is between Alex and Violet, and I mean, sometimes Violet's mouth is a little the thing she says is so crude, and she just has no filter, and some of the ways that she refers to Alex's, stuff is a little over the top and ridiculous, but I didn't mind it. I was just cringe sometimes. But this is Violet's stepbrother is on the same team as Alex, and they end up kind of running into each other. They end up having a one night stand. She doesn't really want anything more than the one night stand. Alex has a reputation as this ladies man player, which isn't actually true. He kind of plays that up as his image, but he really isn't like that. And so he really wants to pursue things with her, and she's kind of no, you're on the same team as my stepbrother. And so he has to pursue her, but I loved it. He's really big, and she loves that and talks about it a lot. But this was a really fun hockey romance. I think if you haven't read the Puck series, this is the first book in it, so it's a good one to start with. This next one isn't my favorite, but I saw a lot of people love this series and love this book, so I think it would be a good option for you. I didn't give it a super high rating, just want to let you know ahead of time on that, but I think a lot of people do like this. And that is The Lawyer by Marni Mann. This is the first book in the Dalton family, and this is really, I can't it's basically smut. I feel this book, if you want a book that's just sex and lust and all of that, this is the perfect book. It's really quick, easy read. And this is between Dominic and Kendall is actually the sister to this reality star. She's kind of being an assistant for her sister, and her sister's a really horrible person, so unlikable character in this book. But she ends up seeing him at a club one night, and they have a one night stand, and she had an amazing time. She's super into him, but she has to rush off. She rushes off for a meeting. It ends up being a meeting that he's her sister's lawyer. So he sees her there, and he's like, well, nothing can happen between us. But I actually know of another reality series that I think you would be perfect for. His friends trying to find a new person to be on it, and it's going to be this big show. So he kind of puts her forward as being on this show, which causes a lot of drama with her sister, who thinks she's trying to be better than her and take her stuff, and it's just, the sister stuff is kind of annoying. But they end up having this undeniable chemistry, and they are hitting, they can't deny it, and they're instantly kind of hooking up, and he becomes her lawyer and helps her out and everything like that. So it was an interesting, one night stand book. It's not my favorite, but I know a lot of people do love it. The last one that I want to mention is Ruthless by Elsie Silver. So I loved this book. I think it was such a great addition to the Chestnut Spring series. If you're new to my channel, you know I love Heartless. I think this is like Heartless and then Reckless are like my two. Like, I love this book so much. This is between Theo and Silver, and Silver is actually the sister of the heroine from the first book, Flawless. And she kind of is like the prickly heroine that you kind of didn't look at very kindly, but I love this her character. I really related to her. She comes off as like kind of bitchy and prickly, but there's so much more to her. And she is a doctor. She's super badass. And she has ended her marriage with her husband because he is a total asshole, and you would know that from reading Flawless. But she basically kind of has a one-night stand with Theo, who he is kind of like the hero from the first book, Flawless, who's with her sister. He was he's a bull rider, and he was kind of like Theo's mentor. And Theo is a bull rider and doing very well. And I was over at like, the family for dinner and everything. He kind of runs into her. They end up running into each other kind of in town and having some drinks, and they end up having a one-night stand. And this is very not like Winter, but she has this one-night stand with him, and she ends up getting pregnant. So this is some of these one-night stands you can see can have these surprise baby, secret baby. She did actually reach out to Theo. So her things, it wasn't like she's trying to hide it from him. But there are reasons and conditions of why he didn't know he had a baby. But let me tell you, I love the way this one was handled, because once he finds out, he does not blame her. He's all in. And so it's this one night stand that turned into this beautiful baby that this family has like all helped Winter take care of. And Theo is just so swoon-worthy. Best dad, wants to be there for Winter, and I just love their relationship. So highly recommend this one. So those are my one night stand recs. I have a lot more, so maybe another video will be coming later. Let me know down below what your favorite one night stand rec is, or if you want another one of these videos. All right, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.